Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here. So you're either getting into Zwifting or you want to be more competitive in Zwifting and start climbing through the ranks. So you've got your bike and your trainer set up, you have a heart rate monitor, power meter, your Zwift profile, and you have your ZwiftPower.com profile, which looks very similar to mine that you're seeing here. So if you're new to this page, you'll see some basic information about yourself here at the top, and then you'll see all of your heart rate and power output and the watts you've been cranking out during your rides and the list of all of your events down here at the bottom. If you haven't been riding yet, don't worry, this part will fill in as you ride. So let's take a closer look at some of this information. So the top, you see your race ranking. We're going to make a separate video about that, explaining it, so don't worry about that just yet. Then you have your category, your pace group. You can see my Cat B ratio that's done 34 events. And then what I want to talk about specifically today and over the next couple of videos are your Z points. So right now I have 8,930 points, and that puts me in 246th place. Cool, so what? What does it mean? So basically, Z points are the way that the Zwift platform racks and stacks all of its users as to who is placing compared to who, because it is a game, it's a competition. And essentially, the more points you have, the better you're doing, the better your placement's going to be. So how does Zwift actually assign your Zwift points? We're going to dive into that in just a second. I want to make a couple of notes here real quick. In the intro, I mentioned you have your heart rate monitor and your power meter. It's very important that those have a good connection to whatever device, like your cell phone or your computer, you're using during your races, because as you can see down here, I had an event where my heart rate monitor dropped off and data was not passed to Zwift profile. I did win this race, but I was disqualified because I didn't have reliable heart rate information. So make sure you have that data. Also, if you're wanting to update your Z points and you're trying to climb the ranks within Zwift, you need to make sure that the events you're taking part in are on this list, so that if you click on this left icon up here, the Zwift Power, it'll bring up the schedule of all the races and rides you can participate in. And if you're wanting to put in a really strong effort to boost your Z points, it needs to be in one of these events. You can't just log into Zwift and go do a custom workout. It will not load to this profile. So with those two notes put aside, let's talk about how Zwift breaks out and how it gets you your Z points. So there's basically three ways to get Z points. One is your raw power output, your segment results from your 6 best segments, and then your race results with your 6 best race placements. Each one of these 3 categories can score you up to 3,600 points for a grand total maximum possible 10,800 Z points. So today we're going to talk specifically about the power and your raw capability to put watts into your bike. And then in the next couple of videos, we'll talk about how to apply the type of rider you are based on the power output over a couple of timed intervals, and how you can apply that to get more points in segments and races. So let's dive into this power subcategory first. As you can see here, total power possible points is 3,600. And that's broken out into 6 what I'm going to call subcategories. And you can get up to 600 points for each of these subcategories, them being your 1 minute pure watts, your 1 minute watt per kilo, your 5 minute watts, 5 minute watt per kilo, 20 minute watts, and 20 minute watt per kilo. So let's go back to our Zwift profile page and first of all see where you can pull this information from. So there is a little bar chart here at the bottom of your homepage that will show your 15-second, 1 minute, 5 minute, and 20 minute best results. It's even color coded, showing you as to where your strongest area is, and then that will be in orange, and then the gray areas show you what your less than optimum areas and times are. If you want to dive into it even further in terms of what all your Z points are and where they're coming from, you can click on this little tab. And the left-hand column is going to show where your points are coming from for your segment breakdown. And then the right-hand column is going to show your point breakdown for your raw power output. And I want to bring attention to this little note that they have up top here saying that this is the best power in watt per kg data in the last 90 days. So if you put in a really strong 20-minute FTP test 91 days ago and you haven't done anything since, ZWift Power is going to drop that result off of your profile and it's not going to count anymore. This makes sure that you keep coming back to the platform and putting in strong efforts in these rides to remain competitive. So these are my actual numbers. We're going to blow this table up so you can actually see them here in a second. But the next thing I want to call attention to is just this total power points that I have 2,994 out of the possible 3,600 points. So let's take a little bit closer look at that. So like I said, here are all of my power numbers for the 1, 5, and 20-minute tests. And then the total number of points I get for each of those efforts, and they even break down in this assignment column how they assign points, ZPoints, for each effort. So for your 1-minute power test, you get 1 point per watt up to 600 points, which basically means you get 1 point for every watt up to 600 watts. You can see I put out 723 watts and for 1 minute, but I'm capped at 600 points, which is good because I get my full number of points, but I have a little extra on top of there that I'm not getting credit for. And then in terms of the 1 minute watt per kg, this is the same effort where I put out 723 watts, and that translates to 8.95 watt per kg, which I got 537 points for based on the ZWift equation that gives you 60 watts per kilogram. For the 20-minute test, you get 1.5 watts points per watt. Then you get 100 points per watt per kilogram. In the 5-minute test, you get 1.2 watts per raw wattage you put out. And then for the 5-minute watt per kg, you get 85 points per watt per kilogram. So that's all great. But if you're wanting to max out your numbers, you probably want to know how many watts and watt per kg you need to hit to actually hit your peak. So I've already broken that out on the table to the right here. So for 600 points for each of these subcategories, 1 minute watts, you need to hold 600 watts for a minute. You need to hold 10 watts per kilogram for a minute. For the 5 minutes portion, you need to hold 500 watts for 5 minutes. You need to hold 7.05 watt per kilogram for 5 minutes for maximum points. And I don't know why this one isn't a nice round number like the rest of them are. You can ask the folks over at ZWift because I don't know. And then for maximum points in the 20-minute effort, you would need to hold 400 watts to get your 600 points and 6 watts per kilogram for 20 minutes for your final subcategory to get 600 points. And I would like to bring attention to this 20-minute watt per kilogram test being 6 watt per kg. In my opinion, that is the most difficult one to accomplish. If you're doing basically an FTP test holding 6 watt per kg, you're probably an elite or professional cyclist, and not very many Zwifters are going to be able to hit that number. So it is very unlikely anyone will actually be able to ever max out their total power output points based on these 6 subcategories. Is there someone out there has done it? Probably so, but I think that would be a pretty rare occasion, honestly, and most Zwifters will fall somewhere in the middle of this stack. So that's how you score your numbers. Now let's talk about how I recommend you to bump these numbers up. So if you want to climb the rankings in the Z-Power category, the Z-Points category of Zwift, what I would recommend is taking about a week to put in really strong efforts in each of these 1, 5, and 20-minute tests. So take about a day or two between each of them, go into your Zwift profile, into that list of events that are happening over the next couple days, find the ones that match your schedule, and then go absolutely hammer out your 1 minute, a 5 minute, and a 20-minute test a couple days apart. And you should see an improvement in your Z-Points just based on your power. So once you go and do those intense tests, you should go back to your profile page and you will see that your bar chart should update about 24 hours after you put your effort in, and then you should see a bump up in your number of Z-Points. So The way to use this information after you do your tests is what's going to be important for moving forward. So if you find out based on those 3 different timed events that you have a really good 1-minute power but not a very good 20-minute power, or vice versa, in the next 2 or 3 videos, we're going to talk about how you can apply what kind of rider you are and where you can maximize your effort in terms of searching for certain segments and racing in certain races to make sure you place better than you would in events that you might not be as competitive in. So if you are interested in seeing that content, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and the notifications to make sure you see that when I post it here in a little bit. And until then, you guys, if you have any questions about how you score ZPoints strictly based on your power output, please drop them in the comments below. I'll do my best to get to all of them. And until next time, you guys, I hope you stay safe. I hope you ride hard, and I'll see you in a little bit.